Welcome viewers to the Personal Injury Law Show. This is a show that talks about anything to do with compensation in Victoria. My name's Tony Carbone. I'm a personal injury lawyer of over 25 years experience. With me tonight I've got Nunzio Tartaglia, a partner in the law firm.
Tony, Alice, viewers, welcome.
And Alice O'Kane, a very senior lawyer in that law firm.
Tony, Nunzio, viewers.
Viewers, tonight we'll be talking about a number of things, but in particular, policies of insurance involving public liability, homeowners policies, how to interpret them and who's covered. But before that, we're going to go to some stories that are in the news and things that are topical at the moment. In particular, there's a story about bloody idiots just never learn. There's been 83,000 plus people picked up for .05 offences in the last 5 years. Chief Executive of TAC's biggest concern is that it's repeat offenders. What are the facts of this, Nuns?
Oh, look, Tony, I suppose it puts into spotlight why the TAC are on a big campaign about .05 and the implications of drink driving and the like. So I think it just brings a message out, strong and clear that it's still not getting through to people. And Alice, a lot of people have had these things installed in their car where they've got a breathalyser essentially. If they get picked up for having any alcohol in their breath, their car doesn't start.
That's right. Look, there are a lot of people self-breathalyzing, Tony, in an effort to avoid getting picked up. I think also, in addition to the facts and figures in that article, I think something like 13,000 people got picked up for drink driving or got their licence cancelled last year alone. So it is a big figure and there's a lot of it out there, and I can see that the TAC is on a bit of a campaign to manage it because there's a lot out there. But yeah, we're all trying different things.
Well, their concern is that it's repeat offenders. Is it that the law's too lenient on these people? Is it possible that they should be taken off the road indefinitely?
Well, I was going to pose the same question, Tony. Are the punishments strong enough? Should your car be impounded for a couple of years, and should you lose your licence for even more? I don't know, but obviously
Alice?
The message is not coming through.
I think, Tony, there is room in the law to look at this sort of an issue, but I think also that it's important to make sure we're not too harsh. I mean, repeated offenders are a difficulty because it's the same people coming back time and time again, and it's as if the system we've got isn't working. And you need to look at it in a broader context to see what you could do to fix it up. Well,
this is on the back of viewers, 5 people dying on Victorian roads recently, and so I don't know how many of those were due to alcohol-related offences, but it's just appalling that our road toll keeps escalating. I think the figures was that it's, this time this year we've had 210 fatalities, whereas last year for the whole year, which is, we've got another 2 to 3 months, it was about 209. So we're already ahead on last year's figures, which is concerning. And the TAC is spending millions and millions of dollars on this advertising, and it's not getting through. It's incredibly disappointing that the numbers are as high as that. 83,000 in 5 years, that equates to nearly, just under 20,000 a year? That's a big number. Massive. And Alice, I'm not sure how many of those are involved in these deaths.
Look, that's right, Tony, and it's a big area for law reform. You'd have to look at it, as I said before, in a broader context. But there are very high numbers, and it's one of the reasons the TAC does have such a aggressive advertising campaign. And I think it's something that can only get worse if you don't look at the law in the long term. Well, I think eventually what's going to happen is the penalties are going to get more severe, aren't they?
Look, they're going to have to be, but it brings into light another recent article, Tony, in that a lot of these repeat offenders or people that have had their licence suspended for drink driving are now getting on scooters to get their way around, around the city. Well,
the legislation says if it's less than 200 kilowatts of power, whatever it is, it doesn't get picked up by the legislation.
So they're welcome to, get on the road effectively, and those things go up to, I think, 35, 40 kilometres. So I think they've got to stamp all that kind of stuff out to make sure they can't get on the road. They need to feel the wrath of the punishment.
Well, Alice, it wouldn't be too hard to pass legislation to cut them out.
No, that's right. There's certainly an area there for it. And the fact of the matter is the scooter is still a vehicle. It still operates like a car. As Nunzio says, they can go up to about 40 k's an hour, which is, when you've got pedestrians involved, can be dangerous. And so I think that it will get looked at eventually, especially if the papers are calling it a legal loophole. There is an area there to be looked at.
Well, it's all to do with the power of the vehicle. In this case, it's a scooter, and it comes under the legislation. So all they have to do is just amend the legislation, and it picks up scooters as well.
Well, I think they need to. When you talk about tougher punishments, that's they've got to make sure those loopholes are no longer there. Yeah.
There's another story about fair trials in danger. This is on the back of a dual mar death. Alice,
That's right, Tony. This is a matter that's had a lot of publicity. I think the other day about 30,000 people took to the streets of Brunswick and Sydney Road in memory of this poor lady who was abducted. But the difficulty is that if there is going to be a criminal trial, which will be inevitable at the end of the day, your potential jury pool, so your potential average person, has heard about this matter because of all of the attention surrounding it, and it will make it difficult for people who are put on a jury because I imagine it would be extremely difficult to be impartial after all of the publicity that's gone on before.
Well, Nuns, the real concern is Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah.
People go on Facebook and Twitter, they send all these messages around, they throw the name up of the alleged attacker.
Offender, yeah.
Will he get a fair trial?
Look, a case such as this, I find it hard because the media attention's been so big and there's been so much emotion in this case that it would be very difficult. And with this Facebook and Twitter, it's just endless, and I just don't think it'll stop. And it's very hard to say that, look, I haven't been exposed to any of that. It's almost impossible.
And do you think that in 6 months' time, when it gets to trial, Alice, it will still be in people's memories or minds?
Tony, what I've really noticed even myself is that every person you talk to has some new fact you haven't heard before about the case in general. And so even though perhaps 6 or 8 months down the track when the matter does go to trial, it will be a fresh issue because it really has received so much attention. And as you were saying, the trouble with a site like Facebook or Twitter is that it's so prolific. One person says one thing, but it's picked up by, up to 500 other people. So it gets around.
Probably the solution to that problem there is to take the names out. Take Jill Maher's name out. Take the alleged offender's name out.
Are you talking on the Facebook and Twitter?
No, also just when it's reported in the papers.
Yeah, but look, they won't know. This has got so much publicity, and it's, I hate to say, but he's also selling papers and news, and there's no way that I think they'll take the names out now. It's just been in the public domain, so I think it's almost too late for that, Tony.
Just quickly, because time's flying, funding for Victorian hospitals at risk. They're not meeting their targets. Alice?
Tony, funding seems to be an issue that comes up at least once or twice a year when it comes to hospitals, whether it's funding for hospital beds, whether it's particular medical equipment, or whether it's funding for places for training doctors. It really is always an issue coming up, and I think that it's something that we will keep seeing. It seems to be a very vexed area in general.
Look, it's got a lot to do with the time it takes to see a patient in the emergency room.
Yeah, I think their hope is to make sure everybody in emergency is seen within 4 hours, and the figures and the data at the moment is suggesting Victoria is way behind every other state. So again, it brings into line funding, resources, and the hospital system's unfortunately lagging still.
Viewers, we've got to go to a break, so please stay tuned and we'll be back very shortly with the topic of tonight, which is looking at insurance policies.